is a freaking real life Indiana Jones. He's done he's looked for with Peter Byrne for Yeti and the Himalayas. He's been at the Nazca Lines doing the mummy stuff. And I mean, when you get to meet these folks, and just like Cliff and Bobo and Lyle and Seth and Lauren Coleman and Bill Brock, and I mean, you sound like you're name dropping, but I guess if that's what it is, that's what it is. But to actually get to be the guy sitting there asking them questions and getting them to respond, and I mean, of all the people, Dr. Jeff Meldrum. I mean, I've got his book and a couple of his Sasquatch field guides, and watched a bunch of stuff for History Channel and everything with him. And to actually get to sit down with him and get an interview and see him smiling at the questions that we were giving him that weren't the typical questions.
That's awesome.
I told somebody, I said, we got to do it and everything. I said, but the Kodak in my head will have the best memories of all, is actually being in that moment. And yeah, we never expected these folks we watched, listened to, read their books, never expected to be interacting with them. And I've actually made friends with a few of them. Not that we're hanging out, cooking out, and smoking cigars and drinking beer or anything, but to the point that, they will share your stuff and check in on you. And so it's really been neat, because that's the one good thing with everything that can go on in the Bigfoot community. We've made a lot of really good, genuine friends, plain and simple. Besides getting out in the woods and getting out from behind the computer or the PlayStation, the other positive has been we've made some really honest-to-goodness friends in it.
Yeah, there's a lot of great people in the community, really. And how was it talking to Seth Breedlove? I had him on the show a couple weeks ago.
I'm going to tell you about Seth. Seth would take this humbly, but I consider Seth a mentor. A lot of folks don't know, but I have another film in the works that's totally unrelated, which was technically my first film, and it's currently in post-production, and it ought to be out any time now.
Nice.
It was about a local author, and at the time, I had been getting Seth's DVDs, and when I had ordered the first set of DVDs, I sent a message on Facebook to Small Town Monsters and said, hey, something about the DVDs. And anyways, they responded almost immediately, and I was like, does this happen to be Seth? And he's like, yeah, man. And so we started chatting. Well, from that point forward, I was asking him filmmaking questions, nothing about Bigfoot, filmmaking questions.
Mm-hmm.
And he was really helping me out along the way. And then when me and my wife started this Cultured Bigfoot, and I was talking about, what to do and what to use and Adobe this and that and the other, he just really just gave me some awesome help. And I mean, still to this day, if I have a question or something, I'm able to reach out to him, and he's gotten a whole lot busier now, but he has been just him and Thomas Markham of the Crypto Crew out of Kentucky. Those two, because Thomas has a bunch of stuff out on Amazon and DVD. Those two probably gave me some of the biggest help in the field. But Seth was the one that I was talking to quite a bit and chatting back and forth, and so it was exciting because I could see a difference from his first film to his second film to his third film to his fourth film to his fifth, and you could see him really growing. And it's one of those things that I was like, I want mine to look like his third film or his fourth film, kind of thing. And so and I was literally watching every bit of his, what they call BTS, behind the scenes stuff and everything. And I was watching his stuff like it was a manual on how to do this, honestly. And I mean, his stuff and his case file stuff that he puts up and everything, if you haven't watched it, make sure you watch it, but make sure you get the DVD so you can watch his behind-the-scenes stuff, because if you're interested in doing any of this at all, man, some of the extra information is just invaluable.
Yeah,
it was to finally meet him and interview him. It was just great. He had just had a new baby and literally just pulled up in the parking lot when we got to finally get together and do the interview and everything we had set up. And and so it was really great. And then to be able to run into them at a couple conferences after that, and we knew each other at that point. You honestly felt like you had made a friend, and that's one of the, as many downfalls as there are with social media. Just like me and you, it extends your range of people you can call friend. They're not just in the same town anymore. So
yeah, I met him at Mothman Fest, and I had been watching Small Town Monsters stuff, and I was like, "There's Seth from Small Town Monsters," and he came right up to us, and we just started talking, and now whenever I see him too, like, he's just super nice to me, and just a real awesome dude.
No, he's a real guy. Yeah, he's a real guy.
I didn't know what to expect, and really a lot of the guys, like even Ron Moorhead was just super nice guy.
Yeah. Listen, Ron Moorhead, and I'll let a little kind of thing out, which if your fans of the show have now watched the trailer I just put out, I've been keeping secret until now, some of the folks that are in the film, but Ron Moorhead is in our new film, Paranormal Bigfoot. Yeah. And Ron, actually, I came up to the ECBRO conference, came up there a day early in my camper, little pop-up camper, nothing fancy, don't think I'm a lamp or anything. But anyways, Ron Moorhead, we had agreed, months ahead of time, and he came over to my little pop-up, and we sat down in the pop-up, and I had everything all set up, and we did his interview at my camper. And so I was like, this is crazy. I mean, to me, this guy is honest to goodness, the real-life Indiana Jones, if I've ever met one. And here he was sitting in my humble little pop-up camper giving me the time of day to be involved in this film and interview, and just was
That's
one
so
of the
awesome.
nice, again, just like when you met, Seth or Lyle or Lauren or Dr. Meldrum and stuff. I don't know, you're expecting something else. You know how they say never meet your heroes because they'll disappoint you. Well, I haven't had any of these guys disappoint me. They've all just been what you hope they were. They've all been like that. And Ron was just a very, very accommodating, very cordial guy, and his knowledge is mind-blowing, dude. This guy is all over the place because he was a flesh and blood guy, listening to the sounds in the wood, and then having orbs, and stuff and different things, and getting into his quantum Bigfoot theory, and just the research that he put into it. And he's really something else. He's a super, super intelligent guy, and he's got a lot of really valid research to support his claims. And then that was one of the things we were fascinated about doing our second film, was there's something to it. There's just as many people make fun of the Bigfoot community and people chasing Bigfoot, then you've got this crowd called the woo crowd inside the Bigfoot community that gets made fun of by the Bigfoot community. But you'll have a flesh and blood guy for years go, well, man, there was this orb come into camp, and then we saw this Bigfoot, and it looked like he just disappeared. And you hear those stories from all kinds of these people, and you're like, there's got to be something to it. And so that was just another fascinating subject, and we kind of want to continue our study in cultural anthropology in the Bigfoot community. And so now we're delving into the part of the community that's called the woo crowd, the paranormal crowd, but we're looking at kind of a juxtaposition of, some of them say that paranormal and the supernatural stuff can be explained by science and, simple things that we just don't recognize, but it looks supernatural to us, so.
Yeah, that's so awesome that you're putting all that together, and I'm very excited to see that one, because I've had some similar experiences like that in the woods, with seeing strange orbs, and like this one time, I call them the fairies. It was like these blue, I saw they had wings, but they were like blue strobe lights, and there were 6 of them outside my tent one night, and just things like that. Like, the woods are insane. It's like a magical place to me.
Yeah.
What are do you have any personal beliefs about the Bigfoot? I mean, do you think it's a flesh and blood creature, or are you leaning more toward the any of the other theories?
Well, I'm going to lean towards what a lot of folks end up ignoring is what a lot of the native culture believes, is that they are flesh and blood and spirit.
That's what I think.
And I think that it's one of those things. It may be good, it may be bad, but we don't know. I think that there is definitely a physical, organic matter there, but I think it's got an ability to do things that we can't explain, and that's one of the things. That's what we touch on in this film, is some of those explanations of stuff. And I mean, you get into bats and echolocation and dolphins and infrasound, and this stuff we don't. I mean, for goodness sake, how does a lightning bug make his butt light up? I mean, when you get into that stuff, you're like, well, okay, so if they can do that, why can't a Bigfoot make his eyes glow? You see what I'm getting at? When you start asking, you take this, the keep it simple, stupid kind of approach, and you start looking at stuff like that and go, well, you want to talk about telepathy? Me and my wife are riding down the road, and I was thinking, man, I'd like some Taco Bell, and all of a sudden she goes, let's get Taco Bell. You want to just get that? Well, how many times, if you're married or you got a girlfriend long enough, how does, that's a form of telepathy there. So when you get into that stuff, you can't just discount it, because a lot of that stuff that you just don't recognize happens to a lot of folks every day, and it happens in nature,
Definitely.
I mean, it's,
I agree. I've had some similar experiences with several of my best friends too, where I'll be thinking something and they'll say it, or I'll be thinking about a song in my head and they'll start singing it, stuff like that. And and have you heard about the streetlight interference stuff, where some people, when they walk under street lights, it'll just like turn off when they go under it?
Yeah, and it's so weird that you're talking about that, because one of the interviews that I've done, we talk about folks and like the human batteries and stuff like that. The people that can store up electrical current and then grab a hold of a end of a plug-in of a pancake griddle and make it get hot and stuff. And that's so odd that's just kind of a telepathy there, but it's so odd you brought that up, because literally one of the interviews we talk about, Bigfoot around the, power stations and the power lines and stuff, and people thinking that they, see like shafts of light and stuff, and, coming from or to. And so, yeah, I mean, it's, we know that, there's the weird cases of people spontaneously combusting. We know that there's people that are able to, store energy and stuff. We don't understand it, They've got to be tapping into something that evidently used to be there that the rest of us aren't tapping into anymore, or, it's been blocked or something. So, yeah, it's...
Man, I try to figure it out. I notice it literally almost daily. If I go driving around or even walking around, I've noticed an unusual amount of streetlights. When I go under them, they'll go out. And
oh, wow.
It's just like, I don't know what's going on. Is it a coincidence? I don't think so, because there's been some nights multiple ones will do it, and I caught some of it on film. I spent like hours walking around filming, like, and driving and filming streetlights, and I've caught some of it on film. But it's wild, man. And the other night I was in the woods doing a camp out, and I saw this strange red light in the sky, like blinking, and I thought it was like one of those towers, because it was just like sitting still.
Yeah. And
then all of a sudden it just disappeared, and then of course we heard some wood knocks. We heard. I was telling you earlier before the show about how I thought I heard the samurai chatter. And so I don't know.
Yeah, that's crazy, because as me and you were talking before the show, the most famous, samurai chatter, where that comes from, is in '74, Ron Moorhead and the Sierra Sounds. And as far as I know, there's, other than wood knocks and whoops and grunts, there's not been a whole lot of other folks that are recording what sounds like the creature talking or something. And then here me and you are talking, and literally during one of the interviews that I did, one of the guys just within a a few weeks ago has recorded what we both, he shared it with me, and saying I could